not during the destruction of Sodom, before it. And Genesis 19, verse 12, what occurred? Well, the city was about to be destroyed, and the men said unto Lot in verse 12, have you here anyone besides yourself? Do you have son-in-laws, and do you have sons and daughters? Verse 12, they're describing, you see, safety. And whatever you have in the city, bring them out of this place. That was a command. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of God, and God has sent us to destroy this city. And Lot went out, and he spoke to his sons-in-law that married his daughters and said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord God will destroy this city. He didn't say, stay in town, stay where you are, pray to God and say, Father, protect us in Sodom. Lead us here. We don't have to flee. We have trust in you. Protect us in the city. He didn't say that. He said, get out. But his sons-in-law looked at him, and he seemed like somebody who was mocking. They thought he was daft. How could God destroy a whole city? God wouldn't do that. God wouldn't do that, the sons-in-law said, so the sons-in-law didn't leave, you see. As it was in the days of Noah and the days of Lot, so shall it be, brethren, in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. They didn't believe. When the morning came, verse 15, the angels hastened Lot and said, arise and get out, lest you be consumed in the city. Verse 16, and while Lot lingered, because, you see, he was attached to the city, and there was a lot of publicity going on, all the neighbors were talking about it, and he had certain lingering doubts, and he wasn't exactly sure that God really was going to do this. There were questions in his mind, heavy questions about fleeing. He lingered. And as it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. And the angels laid a hold upon him, and they dragged him out. Came to pass, verse 17, when they brought him forth, that he said finally he got the picture, he said, escape for your life. Look not behind you. Don't stay in the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest you be consumed. And Lot said unto them, oh, not so, my Lord. Now how? He said, I'm not going to go to the mountain. You know why? Verse 19, behold, now your servant has found grace in your sight, and you've magnified your mercy, which you've shown unto me in saving my life. But I don't want to go to the place of safety in the mountain, because, you see, some evil up in that remote, inhospitable mountain may take me, and I'll die up there. Oh. I remember being laughed at by some ministers who are gone now, and I said I believed that we would go to Petra someday. And they said, ha! Petra's got no water. Petra's got no food. Petra's called the city of the dead. You want to go to Petra? You'll die up there in that forsaken mountain. I can't escape to that mountain lest some evil take me and I die there. As it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be again in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Well, the story of Lot is about escape into a place of safety, not Christianity per se. Behold, now he argued about even the city. He didn't want to go up in the mountains, so God did change it. They didn't have to flee quite as far. He went to Zoar instead. Verse 22, hasten you, escape thither, he said. I cannot do anything until you become thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. That was the place of safety then. The city was risen upon the oak, and finally Lot entered into Zoar. He got there, and then the Lord God rained down upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire, and overthrew the cities and the plain and the inhabitants, and everything which grew upon the ground. Now here's a flashback. Like Sodom, who maybe thought, well, God will protect me back in Sodom. She looked back, and brethren, she wasn't just looking back. She was about to turn all the way around, and she was going to go back. She wasn't looking back longingly. She was going to turn around, and she was going to march back into her city. That was her town. She wanted nothing to do with this place of safety idea. She turned around, and she became a pillar of salt that is a memorial. Not for them. For us. You know what the memorial of Lot's wife standing there in that desert, a pillar of salt, means? It's a lesson for us. It means when the call comes to flee, and the directive is given, brethren, we must go. We must not linger as Lot did. We must not turn back around as his wife did. We must go all the way. We mustn't stay in the land or in the city or give in to some kind of anti-place of safety bias or reject the promise of literal physical removal. Notice Luke 17, verse 28. Luke 17, verse 28. Lesson in Lot's wife we need to understand. Remember verse 29. Verse 28, as it was in the days of Lot, they ate, they drank, his sons-in-law wouldn't leave the town with him. They just kept on living as they'd always lived. But the same day, verse 29, that Lot went out of Sodom and got to Zoar. His wife didn't make it, but he did. It rained fire and brimstone, and it destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the days when the Son of Man comes. Now, does that mean, in a couple of years? Well, what does it mean? Verse 31, in that day. Does this mean the day of Christ's return? He which is on the housetop in that day, and his stuff is in the house. His stuff is in the house. I think that's sort of funny. I find that humorous. His stuff is in the house. I don't think that word is used anyplace else in the Bible. All his stuff is in the house. He's got some big, huge, I guess he's got his suitcase already, and he's got his hi-fi, and I don't know what else he's got in his house. All his stuff is in there. And it says he wants to come down off of his roof and grab the suitcase and get his stuff. Don't come down to get your stuff. Now, some of our brethren apply that to the return of Jesus Christ. Does that make any sense? You're up on the roof, your suitcase is in the house, your stuff is in there, Jesus is coming in clouds, you see him coming, you say, wait a minute, you jump off the roof, you run in the house, you grab your suitcase and you say, here I am, Lord. Now, none of you would do that. You would know full well you would rise in the clouds and go up to meet him directly from the roof. There'd be no question of going to get your stuff in your house. Now, when would you want to jump off the roof and go grab the suitcase? It's so pitifully clear, brethren. This is referring to the example of Lot and the example of Noah and the ark and fleeing into a place of safety. Don't come down to grab the suitcase. If you're in the field, don't return back to get your stuff. And as you're doing that, as you're going through the trauma of leaving, he says, verse 32, please, brethren, remember Lot's wife. Remember the wife of Lot and what happened to her and why. She became a pillar of salt on the way to a place of safety because she was turning around and she was going to go back. Remember Lot's wife. Some of you will forget what Lot's wife did. A lot of people have forgotten who have left the church of God. Whoever seeks to save his life will lose it. Those who seek to lose their lives will preserve it. I tell you, in that night, the night of Christ's return, no. In that night, there shall be two men in one bed.